97% of it is uninhabited. It's a nation of just over 10 million people, rattling around in a space the size of California, a state that holds 4 times its population. A country known globally for its quiet, reserved people has somehow produced some of the world's loudest music, most disruptive technologies, and most radical social experiments. This is Sweden, a land of profound contradictions, often painted with a broad, minimalist brush of IKEA furniture, stoic detectives, and snow-covered forests. But to truly understand this place is to look past the stereotypes and into the silent spaces in between, the vast physical and social distances that define its character. Our journey today is not just a tour, it's an attempt to navigate a social archipelago, where each island of interaction is separated by a sea of quiet contemplation. We are going to trace the invisible blueprint that shapes one of the most unique and often misunderstood societies on Earth. Before we can begin to comprehend the people, we must first yield to the immense power of the space they inhabit. Sweden unfurls across 450,000 square kilometers, a geographical giant making it the 5th largest country in Europe. Yet, it is a giant defined by its resonant emptiness. While a country like Thailand, slightly larger, pulses with the energy of over 71 million people, Sweden's 10 million residents give the country a population density that feels almost atmospheric. This immense, quiet space is the first and most fundamental truth of Swedish life, the canvas upon which everything else is painted. The reason for this sparse population is etched into the land itself. This is not a country of sprawling, sun-drenched farmlands. Agricultural land makes up a mere 8% of its total area, a scarcity common among its Nordic neighbors. Instead, the landscape is overwhelmingly dominated by 2 primeval forces: forests and water. An endless, breathing tapestry of pine, spruce, and birch, covering nearly 70% of the country, is interspersed with the glittering surfaces of almost 100,000 lakes. This geography has dictated a settlement pattern heavily concentrated in the southern third of the country, in the historical regions of Götaland and Svealand. Here, in this more temperate and fertile cradle, lie the nation's 3 largest cities, the capital Stockholm, the western port of Gothenburg, and the southern hub of Malmö. Venture north and you enter Norrland, a territory of staggering scale. This northern expanse covers nearly 60% of the country, but holds a mere 12% of its population. Here, the wilderness is not a park. It is the default state of existence. Winter is not just a season, it is a dominant, 6-month-long force of nature. Temperatures plummeting to minus 20 degrees Celsius or lower are not exceptional events, but an expected reality. This extreme climate has bred an infrastructure of resilience. Houses are heavily insulated, triple glazed windows are standard, and water and electrical systems are engineered to withstand the profound cold. This constant negotiation with nature has forged a unique legal and cultural concept, something absolutely core to the Swedish soul, allemansrätten, or the right of public access. This isn't just a law on the books. It is a sacred, unwritten pact between the people and the land. It grants everyone, citizen and visitor alike, the right to walk, cycle, ski, and camp on any land, with the exception of private gardens and land under cultivation. The only condition is a simple, yet profound one: inte styra, inte förstör, do not disturb, do not destroy. It is a radical expression of freedom, a deeply held belief that nature is a common treasure, not a private commodity. It is this principle that allows Swedes to forge such an intimate, personal connection with their vast, silent landscapes. It also explains why the quiet of the forest is not seen as emptiness, but as a space for reflection, healing, and rejuvenation. It is a right that comes with a profound, unspoken responsibility, a theme we will see repeated in every facet of Swedish society. How do you build a modern, prosperous, and equitable nation in such a vast and often unforgiving environment? Sweden's answer, developed over the course of the 20th century, was to embark on one of the most ambitious social engineering projects in human history, the Folkhemmet, or the People's Home. Championed by the Social Democratic Party, which governed Sweden for most of the last century, the concept was simple. Yet revolutionary, the nation should function like a good home for all its citizens, providing security, equality, and care from cradle to grave. This is not a theoretical ideal, it is a tangible, state-funded reality that shapes every stage of life. As of 2025, Swedes pay some of the highest and most progressive income taxes in the world, with top marginal rates exceeding 50%. This is the price of admission to the people's home. In return, the state delivers a comprehensive social safety net designed to mitigate life's inherent risks. Higher education at public universities is not just subsidized, it is tuition-free for all EU citizens. Healthcare is universal, with costs capped at a low annual maximum for individuals, ensuring no one faces financial ruin due to illness. The support for families is perhaps the system's crown jewel. Parents are entitled to 480 days of paid parental leave to be shared between them, with 90 of those days specifically reserved for each parent. The so-called daddy months, a policy designed to actively promote gender equality at home and in the workplace. Subsidized, high-quality public daycare is a right for all children over 1 year old, enabling both parents to work. However, this meticulously designed home is not without its strains and critics. The high tax burden, while funding the system, can be perceived as a disincentive for high earners and entrepreneurs. There is an ongoing national debate about the efficiency of the public sector and the long waiting times for certain medical procedures. Furthermore, an aging population and the costs of integrating a large immigrant population are placing unprecedented pressure on this welfare model, forcing a constant re-evaluation of its sustainability. The Swedish model is not a static utopia, it is a living, breathing organism in a constant state of negotiation between the collective good, individual liberty, and economic reality. Given its collectivist social structure, many are surprised to discover that Sweden is a fiercely capitalist and export-driven nation. It is consistently ranked among the world's most competitive and prosperous economies. The quiet, consensus-driven culture believes a powerhouse of global innovation. This unique economic model, often called a socialist-capitalist hybrid, is underpinned by a distinctively Swedish approach to labor relations. Since the historic Saltsjöbaden Agreement of 1938, the economy has been characterized by a peaceful collaboration between powerful trade unions and employers' associations who negotiate wages and working conditions centrally, minimizing strikes and fostering stability. The results of this model are visible in the country's major exports: vehicles, pharmaceuticals, telecommunications equipment, and machinery. The automotive industry is a perfect example. Volvo, a brand whose name has become a global shorthand for safety and pragmatic design, is ubiquitous on Swedish roads. It's more than a car, it's a piece of national identity. But Sweden's automotive prowess doesn't stop there. Scania is a world leader in heavy trucks and buses, and at the other end of the spectrum, Koenigsegg produces some of the most exclusive and technologically advanced hypercars on the planet, all from a small, unassuming facility in the south of Sweden. Beyond manufacturing, Sweden has become a global cultural and technological force. The flat, pack furniture giant IKEA has done more than just furnish homes. It has exported a specific aesthetic of Scandinavian design, clean lines, functionality, and affordability to every corner of the globe. In fashion, H&M has become a fast fashion empire. But the true modern story of the Swedish economy is its stunning transformation into a unicorn factory. This small Nordic nation is one of the world's most prolific producers of billion-dollar tech startups per capita. Spotify, which fundamentally changed how the world consumes music, was born in Stockholm. So were Skype, which revolutionized communication, and Klarna, a fintech giant that has reshaped online commerce. This incredible output is no accident. It is the direct result of a highly educated, English-fluent population, early government investment in home PCs and broadband access in the 1990s, and that robust social safety net, which risks the terrifying leap of entrepreneurship. For any foreigner moving to Sweden, the most challenging landscape to navigate is not the physical one, but the social one. Swedes are famously polite, orderly, and well-behaved, but they are also deeply reserved. As the original transcript rightly noted, striking up a conversation with a stranger on a bus or in a queue is a rare event, and this can lead to a profound sense of loneliness for newcomers. It's easy to mistake this reserve for coldness or arrogance, but it's more accurately understood as a deep-seated respect for personal space and a cultural aversion to imposing on others. The social bubble is sacred. To break through this barrier and truly connect, one must understand and embrace two foundational cultural concepts. The first and most accessible is fika. Fika is often translated as coffee and cake break, but this definition is woefully inadequate. Fika is a social institution, a protected moment in the day. It is a deliberate, structured pause to socialize with colleagues and friends over coffee, and most likely, a cannibal cinnamon bun. It is so ingrained in the culture that many companies mandate fika breaks. In a society that avoids spontaneous small talk, fika is the designated, safe harbor for connection. It is the primary gateway to friendship and the essential oil in the social machinery of the workplace. It is not something you do at your desk, it is an event you attend. The second, more profound and pervasive concept is lagom. There is no direct English translation, but it encapsulates the philosophy of just the right amount. Not too much, not too little. It is an ethos of moderation, balance, fairness, and contentment that permeates every aspect of Swedish life. You see lagom in the minimalist design aesthetic, which prizes function and harmony over ostentation. You hear it in the aversion to boasting or extreme displays of emotion. You feel it in the societal pursuit of work-life balance, where leaving the office on time is not just accepted but expected. For an outsider accustomed to a culture of excess and superlatives, lagom can sometimes feel like a lack of passion or ambition. But for Swedes, it is the art of sustainability in life, of finding a harmonious middle ground. Understanding lagom is the key to understanding Swedish behavior. It is the invisible force behind the reserve, the focus on consensus, and the deep-seated belief in a society that is functional and fair for everyone, rather than exceptional for a few. For centuries, Sweden was a remarkably homogeneous society. This shared Lutheran ethnic and linguistic background was the fertile soil in which the consensus-driven welfare state grew. However, the period after World War II, and particularly from the 1970s onwards, began a period of profound and irreversible transformation. Initially, immigration was driven by labor needs, with large groups arriving from neighboring Finland to work in Sweden's booming industries. Later, in the 1990s, Sweden opened its doors to refugees fleeing the Balkan Wars. But the most significant demographic shift has occurred in the last 2 decades, as Sweden has taken in one of the highest numbers of refugees per capita in Europe, particularly from conflict zones in the Middle East and Africa. As of 2023, the largest group of foreign-born residents are from Syria, numbering nearly 200,000, followed by those from Iraq and Finland. This humanitarian stance has dramatically reshaped the country's social fabric, turning cities like Malmö into vibrant, multicultural melting pots, enriching the nation with new foods, music, languages, and perspectives. However, this rapid change has not been without significant societal friction. The challenges of integration, employment for newcomers, and cultural clashes have become central to the national conversation. It has led to the emergence of segregated neighborhoods and has strained the resources of the welfare state. This has, in turn, fueled the rise of populist, anti-immigration political movements, challenging the long-standing political consensus. Sweden today is a fascinating and at times tense case study of an old, unified culture grappling with the complex realities of a globalized, multicultural world. Presiding over this evolving nation is a constitutional monarchy. While King Carl XVI Gustaf holds no political power, the royal family serves as a powerful, apolitical symbol of tradition and national continuity in a country that is otherwise changing at an incredible pace. To truly feel the rhythm of Swedish life, you must experience its celebrations, which are deeply connected to the dramatic shifts of the seasons. The darkness of winter is pierced by one of the most beautiful traditions, Lucia. On December 13th, the darkest time of the year, the country awakens to processions of young people dressed in white, led by a Lucia, wearing a crown of real candles, singing songs of light and hope. It is a stunningly beautiful ceremony that brings light into the winter gloom. But the undisputed zenith of the Swedish calendar is midsummer, celebrated on a Friday near the summer solstice. It is a joyous, almost pagan, explosion of life, marking the arrival of the short, intensely cherished summer. Swedes flock to the countryside, weaving flower crowns, dancing around a maypole, singing traditional songs, and feasting on a meal of pickled herring seppasil, new potatoes with dill, and fresh strawberries, all washed down with copious amounts of snaps. It is the one day of the year when the famous Swedish reserve seems to dissolve completely. Later in the summer comes the Krathordfestskiva, or crayfish party. This is a delightfully messy tradition where friends and family gather outdoors under paper lanterns decorated with moons, wearing silly hats and bibs, to feast on piles of dill-scented boiled crayfish. And of course, no discussion of Swedish culture is complete without mentioning its most famous musical export, ABBA, and the Swedish music miracle. It's a phenomenon where Swedish songwriters and producers, most notably the legendary Max Martin, have been the masterminds behind a staggering number of global pop hits for artists like Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, and The Weeknd, cementing Sweden's status as a small nation with a giant voice in global culture. This deep connection to the land and a forward-thinking, pragmatic mindset converge in Sweden's world-leading approach to environmentalism. This is not a recent trend driven by global pressure. It is a core part of the national identity, born from a respect for the nature that surrounds them. And nowhere is this more visible than in the capital, Stockholm. Stockholm is a city quite literally built in harmony with nature. It is spread across 14 islands at the point where Lake Mälaren meets the Baltic Sea, all connected by 57 bridges. It is a city of water, boats, and meticulously preserved green spaces, including the world's first national urban park. In 2010, it was named the first ever European green capital, a recognition of its decades-long commitment to sustainability. By the 1990s, the city had already cut its CO2 emissions by 25% from 1990 levels. The ultimate goal is to be completely fossil, fuel-free by 2040. This commitment is powered by a policy of extended producer responsibility (EPR), which makes manufacturers responsible for the entire life cycle of their products, from creation to disposal. This has led to one of the most effective recycling systems in the world, where less than 1% of household waste ends up in a landfill. The PANT system, where a small deposit is paid on every bottle and can, is a part of daily life. Returning empties to a reverse vending machine at the supermarket is a national ritual, a small act of civic duty performed by everyone. This culture of environmental consciousness has produced global icons like activist Greta Thunberg, whose school strike for climate began right outside the Swedish parliament. She is not an anomaly, but rather the powerful and logical product of a society that has long understood that its survival and prosperity are inextricably linked to the health of the planet. Sweden, in the end, is a nation defined by its deliberate, carefully maintained balances. It is a balance between the immense, silent wilderness and the hyper-modern, innovative cities. It is the balance between a deep-seated individualism, enshrined in the right to roam, and a powerful collectivism, expressed through the architecture of the welfare state. It is a society that runs on the quiet principles of function, fairness, and a profound, often unspoken, connection to the natural world. It does not shout its virtues from the rooftops, it lives them, quietly, consistently, and with a sense of legum. It's a country that challenges you not to look, but to listen, to the silence of the forests, the structured hum of the cities, and the unspoken rules of a truly unique social contract. What part of the Swedish mindset, the radical freedom of Allemansreten, the quiet balance of legum, or the communal pause of fika, resonates with you the most? Share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. If this story offered you a new lens through which to see the world, consider sharing it with a fellow traveler who appreciates going beyond the surface. And for more deep explorations of the world's most fascinating places, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for joining this journey.